How many unflattering remarks and silly jokes about blondes Angelina had heard during her not very long life from silly suitors. Why silly? Because clever ones wouldn't joke about it with a possessor of blonde hair of an amazing shade of light golden. Yes, and with intelligence Angelina was full order, higher technical education, and the presence of red diploma. But everything was complicated. Neither her eyes the color of the sea, fringed with long thick eyelashes, nor gorgeous blonde hair, her own, not dyed, which, if you believe glossy magazines, so like men, nor intelligence, nor a sense of humor, nor kindness, have not kept her husband with the name of Epic Ilya and the last name of Muromets. Bravo to parents. 5 years ago he left Angelina. He left sneakily, leaving a note in the style of sorry and goodbye, fell in love with another, and 7-year-old son Jenka, but took 2/3 of the family savings. Rival Angelina knew she was a colleague of her husband. She was distinguished neither bright appearance nor any special emotional qualities, but her figure. Since then Angelina endlessly improved her body, though periodically she broke off and ate chocolate with unprecedented enthusiasm. Then came self-mutilation, even tougher diets, and no less rigid workouts. Now, angry at herself for her recent weakness, she squatted, did push-ups, and jumped. "Mom, are you going on a record? Or is there a competition coming up in your department?" joked her teenager, who had just eaten 2 helpings of the second, which did absolutely no harm to his lean figure. "Don't interfere," shouted Angelina, barely containing laughter and her voluminous breasts jumping in time with the exercises. What kind of injustice was that? Her ex-husband and son could eat as much as they wanted, roll on the couch, and not one bit fat. But she only loosened the vice in which she constantly held herself, and then there was an extra wrinkle on her stomach. My thoughts were interrupted by the persistent ringing of the doorbell, characteristic of Nina Arkadievna's neighbor. The son rushed to the door, and from the corridor were heard barking dogs and the voice of a neighbor. "Angelina, I do not feel well. Shall we take your blood pressure?" We will, Nina Arkadievna." Angelina was glad to end her workout on such a plausible pretext. The pressure really was very high. Angelina immediately called an ambulance. Nina Arkadievna was hospitalized, and she and Jenka had to take Boy, a neighbor's dog of uncertain breed with quite definite size and appetite. A week later Nina Arkadievna passed away. Many nephews came to the funeral. The neighbor had no children of her own, and Angelina gave them the keys to the apartment, but got suspicious glances in return. I still had her dog, Boy. Several times the woman began the conversation, turning now to one of the relatives and then to another. Some of them avoided answering, some referred to cramped living conditions, and some to allergies. So an unexpected inheritance came upon Angelina. The dog sat in the corner of the corridor, did not bark, did not play, and, it seemed, did not even breathe, as if he understood everything. He understood that the one who loved him and took care of him would not come back for him. And that nobody needed him except that big-eyed blonde and her laughing Boy. Boy quietly walked over to Angelina, who was crouched on the stool, and laid his head in her lap. "Don't be sad, my friend. You'll live with us, as it happened." "Hurrah!" came from my son's room. "We take turns walking." Angelina immediately oriented herself. Surprisingly, Boy made so many changes in the lives of his new owners. First of all, they, who were completely irregular, capable of sitting up half the night watching a movie, reading a book, or another project, now went to bed early. The morning began with a walk in all weathers. Secondly, they had to reconsider their diet, with the arrival of another family member with an excellent appetite for not useful sweets, and baked goods had to be cut. As a result, Angelina noticeably grew prettier. Long walks, a good night's sleep, and a proper diet had an effect. Thirdly, somehow at once Jenka grew up and tried to help his mother. Either he took Boy for walks several days in a row, or volunteered to go to the store. Wonderful. Boy recovered from his loss and became very attached to his new owners, following them on their heels and trying to lick them every now and then. 6 months later, the heirs stepped up. It was time to sell the apartment. It came as a complete surprise to everyone that Boy was also an heir, though not of the apartment, but of a pretty decent sum for its upkeep. Well done, Nina Arkadyevna. Angelina's son admired her. Here are the relatives, who refused Boy, jaw dropped. A couple of months later, a buyer for the apartment was found. It turned out to be a handsome man, about the same age as Angelina. Hello. Only managed to say a new neighbor, who came to ask for a cup. His dishes have not unpacked. He stood in the doorway, stunned. At that time, Angelina's son and the dog returned from their walk. They ran swiftly up the stairs, overtaking one another and not seeing anyone around, and almost knocked the guest off his feet. The whole crowd was now in the cramped hallway. "Oh, sorry," said Genyo apologetically. "We didn't notice you." Angelina laughed. "Not notice at all. About 2 meters tall man, could only her son jokester." Andrei Malyshev introduced himself. "Your neighbor." Angelina could not help laughing, joined by Genka. Man, although he did not understand the reason of amusement, involuntarily smiled. An amorous boy was running around them and barking playfully. "You see, Andrew," Angelina was explaining to her guest when they were already sitting in the kitchen and drinking tea, "my husband's name was Ilya Muromets. He is of medium height, thin and absolutely no resemblance to the epic character. And here you are, Andrei Malyshev, tall, with a slant in the shoulders. You should change names." Here we are with Genka, and laughed. And the man still could not take his eyes off this laughing beauty. "What a fool your Ilya Muromets is!" burst out at him. "How could he leave such a woman and son? Let me be your Bogota, even though I'm Malyshev. I think we will consider your candidacy." It came from the room. "Eugene. What about Eugene? Bogota was offered to both of us, right?" Barking was heard from under the table. "Did I get it right?" Passed by a majority vote. Andrew was not confused. At night, Angelina could not sleep, tossing and turning in bed, smiling, remembering Andrei, his jokes and timid advances. And then she had a dream. She dreamed of her neighbor, Nina Arkadyevna. She straightened Genyo's blanket, picked up the book Angelina had been reading for the night from the floor, and put it on the nightstand, stroked Boy. "Everything will be all right now," the woman said, and left, quietly shutting the door behind her. In the morning, Angelina looked at the nightstand. There was a book lying there. "Where did I leave it yesterday?" She tried to remember, but was distracted by the phone call. "I decided to keep you and Boy company," said Andrew. The dog, the blonde and the new neighbor came out of the entrance and went for their first walk together. A new day was beginning. The first of their many happy days.